Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. The Policy Committee of the Bloomington-Monroe County Metropolitan Planning Organization discussed the Transportation Improvement Program at their July 9th meeting. Monroe County Highway Director Lisa Ridge talked about the struggles to balance a fiscally restrained project budget. She said Monroe County requested to move a key project to fiscal year 2026 to help balance the budget, but that city staff denied the request.
Monroe County was willing to move their project to the STP funds for 2026 and balance this budget and balance this tip. It was denied basically by city staff saying that we could not move our project out of HSIP and into STP. I since that time have reached out to NDOT, and that is not disallowed. They encourage LPAs and MPOs and all entities to work together to make a program work, to make a tip work, and make everybody's project a priority.
Bloomington City Plan Commissioner Jillian Kinsey asked about the focus on crash data for project priority. Ridge responded that crash reports play a big part in how Highway Safety Improvement Program funding is allocated. Public Transportation Corporation Board member Kent McDaniel showed concern that Bloomington Transit was only listed to receive funding in 2022. He said BT could not rely on funding from Indiana University.
I worked for the university transportation services all my working career, and I don't think you're going to get any more money out of the university. So if you want to have good public transportation in Bloomington, we're going to have to figure out another way to do it.
MPO Transportation Planner Ryan Clemens clarified that the Policy Committee would be voting to allow public comment on the proposed budget. MPO Citizens Advisory Committee Chair Sarah Ryderband suggested the committee add both projects back into the budget for its presentation to the public.
He believes that we should have a constrained tip. On the other hand, what came down in deciding how 2026 looks did not seem particularly fair for those of us who live not only in the city, but also in the county. And I would love for our citizenry in general to be able to weigh in on what is being proposed and to give us the feedback we need as policymakers to reasonably vote on a final draft.
Committee members approved a motion to do so 9-3, with Deputy Mayor Don Griffin, Bloomington Public Works Representative Nate Nickel, and Monroe County Plan Commissioner Margaret Clements voting no. The Ellettsville Town Council discussed new playground equipment at its July 12th meeting. Town Manager Mike Farmer requested funds to replace the playground equipment formerly located at Campbell's Park. He said an Americans with Disabilities Act compliant playground could not be built at the current location atop Campbell's Park, so he proposed a location where additional ADA compliant playground equipment could be built.
I talked to Denise about ADA requirements, and we can't meet ADA requirements on top of Campbell's Park. So then we decided, after talking to Jimmy and several people about it, that perhaps we would replace the Campbell's Park playground equipment, which I think fits perfectly up there and is enjoyed by many people, and that we'd put an ADA compliant a set of playground equipment across the way by the shelter house, if you will, and the ball diamonds, basketball courts. And we've talked to Marty Stevens, and he's glad to host that piece of playground equipment.
Farmer said the funding would come from the town's general fund. Councilmember William Ellis questioned him on whether the project would end up costing more than the town could afford.
When I'm talking about the ongoing cost, is it at this point for just what we're talking about building now? Would you say we can do it with the resources we have? I'm not talking about the future growth of parks. I'm just talking about what we're talking about tonight. What type of just ballpark for me ongoing cost are we going to incur because of this? Because what I don't want to get is creep to say we can pay for this but the maintenance is going to cost X, Y, and Z, and we can't pay for that later, and we're going to have to tax our residents more, which I won't do.
Farmer said the upkeep would fall under maintenance the town already performs. Council members voted to approve the project unanimously. At the July 12th Bloomington Plan Commission meeting, petitioner Ryan Call presented a revised plan to develop the old East Side Kmart site. Call said the project had development along the UDO and with feedback from a prior presentation to the Plan Commission. He identified, quote, no-mow, unquote, landscaping as a piece of feedback the group was excited to develop.
As you can see here, stretching from the south side all the way up through the north, we've introduced this butterfly seed mix. And then we've actually introduced this idea of an educational park here at the corner of Kingston and Mary Agnes. And the concept is that we would have a plaque that would talk about the native plant species and the ecologies that they support. And then we'd be able to demonstrate it right there on site.
Commissioner Brad Whistler showed concern about changes to traffic on Clariz Boulevard. He asked transportation engineer Andrew Seabor about congestion caused by people turning left onto Clariz. Seabor said the city was confident that additional access points to the area will help alleviate congestion.
So we're confident that one lane of traffic will work. At each of the drives, there will be right turning, there will be turning activity. And I think that it will be distributed by the number of access points provided. And there will be some, slowing caused by that, but I don't think it will get to the point of significant traffic congestion that we need to worry about.
The Plan Commission voted to approve the site plan 7-0. The Bloomington Commission on Sustainability discussed racial equity at their July 13th meeting. Commissioner Colin Murphy talked about the City of Oakland, California's commitment to its Racial Equity Impact Assessment and Implementation Guide. He suggested inviting the consultants of the report to give a presentation and give advice on how Bloomington could implement a similar plan.
And so I was just curious to maybe have them come and talk about, their impact assessment, their report, and maybe, share some best practices with us. And perhaps, we could explore if to the extent to which and maybe where we could employ some of these best practices in helping to implement Bloomington's climate action plan, because I believe this is responsible for helping to implement it, if I'm not mistaken.
Commissioner Jarrett Alexander asked if the presentation should be opened to a general audience. Commissioner Joseph Winia said it should. He added that community members and city officials would benefit more from seeing the presentation.
Say that this seems like a better fit presentation to me for a larger audience, more so than even directly for the BCOS, because the BCOS has a limited scope of activity and engagement. It seems like it would be members of the city and community at large that would benefit the most from learning the most about this.
Murphy suggested reaching out to community members to speak on equity in Bloomington as well. The Commission on Sustainability next meets on August 10th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future. we are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. Executive Director of United Way of Monroe County, Ephra Pfefferman, gave an update on efforts to reduce homelessness to the Monroe County Council. At the July 13th meeting, Pfefferman gave a report on the Housing Insecurity Working Group. She talked about how the plan was shelved early in the development in 2014 and that the working group identified the need for leadership on the project.
And so the missing piece was really the leadership needed to execute a plan and gather the community and marshal resources behind it. And so what's really been key from the start of this whole process is that I think everyone understood that and said, yeah, we can see, the plan kind of went on a shelf because there's no dedicated staff to it. There's no dedicated entity. The South Central Indiana Housing Network's a great organization, but it's comprised of people who are already running agencies full-time. And so this is not their full-time job. It's a monthly meeting they attend, and they're looking at how to house people who have become homeless or are homeless as their main objective. So the commitment was there, I think, and the consensus was there from the start of this work.
Counselor Marty Hawk asked for clarification on the different kinds of homeless resources. Pfefferman said that emergency shelters are important, but highlighted the need for more transitional and housing-first resources.
So shelters are definitely important in this ecosystem. But I really like to I borrow from Emily Pike on this all the time, the analogy of healthcare and how you need an emergency room and an ER, but that's not going to fix the long-term issues. So we have our ERs, we have our shelters, and we don't want to stop investing in those because people do need that. But we have a bottleneck to permanent, supportive, safe housing. And that's what this long-term plan is more focused on.
Counselor Kate Wiltz questioned Pfefferman on her approach to get feedback from the unhoused population. Pfefferman replied that she worked with the Bloomington Homeless Coalition to make sure unhoused residents could have their feedback heard.
I think it was the MAP and GAP committee crafted a survey that a representative from the BHC, the Homeless Coalition, agreed to take out in print form to folks who are unhoused and get some feedback from them. And he actually collected these surveys and brought them back to the committee. We met with them. It was hard for folks to make the committee meetings. So we worked creatively to get input through other means.
The next regular County Council meeting is scheduled for August 10th. The Monroe County Stormwater Management Board considered additional funding for the Lake Monroe Water Fund. Lake Monroe Water Fund Chair Jane Martin asked for funds to hire a full-time fundraising officer at the July 14th meeting. She said funding from City of Bloomington Utilities had fallen through at the last minute.
When you made your initial contribution, I told you I would, that I had another funding source that was through CBU that got killed at the 11th hour. So we're back to the drawing board. And my current effort is to hire a full-time fundraising officer who can write grants, initiate campaigns, and corporate contributions.
County Surveyor Tron Enright Randolph suggested that the Water Fund was competing with another Lake Monroe organization, Friends of Lake Monroe, for the same funding sources. He wondered whether the money could be better spent on a new county staff member.
Even though $12,500 doesn't seem like a lot, where could that be better served potentially? You look at that and couple it with our funding with the Friends of Lake Monroe, we're inching towards maybe a full-time personnel that could, help these efforts as well. Ultimately, when there's downtime, we wouldn't really have a position to know exactly what this coordinator would be doing. And there is a lot of downtime in grant writing. So,
Enright Randolph suggested moving discussion to a future meeting so all county commissioners could be present. County Commissioner Lee Jones agreed. She cited a recent vote she missed, which she said caused problems.
Yeah, I think this is a big enough decision, so it would be better if all three of us were engaged in it. I unfortunately had to miss a meeting and was unable to make an important vote, and it caused a little bit of a problem. So I think it would be better if Commissioner Thomas could also be here.
Board members voted to table the request to the August 11th meeting. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
there for me every day, believing in me,
showing me what's possible,
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
To say I can rather than I can't.
To say no with no apology.
To be a leader.
To finish school.
To own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner,
I will not be another statistic.
I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. The Monroe County Commissioners discussed Small Business Administration emergency loans at their July 14th meeting. SBA Public Affairs Specialist Julie Garrett talked about offering disaster loans to county residents and small business owners who are still recovering from the June 18th floods. She clarified that despite the organization's name, the SBA offers loans to a variety of residents in need.
So a common misperception because of our name, U.S. Small Business Administration, is that we just do disaster loans for businesses. But in fact, we help homeowners, renters, nonprofit organizations, and businesses of all sizes.
Commissioner Penny Giffens pointed out that residents can qualify for an SBA disaster loan if they do not qualify for other emergency funds. Director of Emergency Management Allison Moore clarified that residents who do not qualify for the SBA loan can then apply for state emergency funds.
If an individual
does not qualify for an SBA loan, then they have an opportunity to fill out an application through the Indiana Department of Homeland Security for the Indiana Disaster Relief Fund.
Thank you.
And then, but we encourage anyone to go and try and see if they qualify, because then they would have that opportunity to meet with Homeland Security on the Indiana side if they don't qualify, and then of course to get assistance through SBA if they do.
Garrett said residents have until September 7th to apply for a disaster loan. Monroe County residents who want to apply can contact the SBA online at sba.gov/disaster or over the phone by calling 800-659-2955. At the July 14th meeting of the Bloomington Economic Development Commission, Assistant Director of Small Businesses Jane Coopersmith proposed that EDC meetings occur on the third Tuesday of each month at 4 p.m. starting in September. She said Commissioner Kurt Zorn had recently been appointed to a new position and had a conflicting meeting with current Economic Development Commission meetings.
Kurt's responsibilities with the NCAA he has a recurring meeting now going forward with his new appointment. I forget the title, which is too bad because it's significant, but so he has a recurring conflict with this meeting time, and he was willing to step down from the EDC, but we staff felt that, you know, he's got a lot of experience with this organization. He's great as a leader for us, and we sort of assumed you all felt the same way. So I think Kurt wanted us to meet today in order to have that conversation. So
the commission voted to approve the new schedule 3-0. The Bloomington Environmental Commission discussed Lake Monroe as a water source at their July 15th meeting. Commissioner David Parkhurst gave an update on the status of Friends of Lake Monroe. Commissioner Dedamia Whitney asked about what the group would do if Indianapolis made a bid to use Lake Monroe as a water supply. Parkhurst responded that they had discussed it at length. He said he wasn't sure there was much they could do about it.
This is something that Sherry Mitchell, who's the head of Friends of Lake Monroe, has talked about. I don't know that there are things we can do, but we've complained, I think, to the core that that ought not to happen. And
I don't know if that'll do any good, but.
Right. I don't know that there's much we can do.
Commissioner Michael Litwin suggested that Lake Monroe could not support both Bloomington and Indianapolis during extreme droughts. Commissioner Sam Armstrong agreed and suggested that be the focus of an argument against an Indianapolis bid.
I was saying it could be more well received if we approach it from perspective of water security for Bloomington versus explicitly being against Indianapolis taking it.
Right.
City Environmental Planner Linda Thompson suggested commissioners speak with Director of City Utilities Vic Kelson for more information. The next Environmental Commission meeting is scheduled for August 19th. The Monroe County Solid Waste Management District Citizens Advisory Committee discussed its 2022 budget. At the July 15th meeting, committee member Joseph Winia talked about a recommendation by District Board member Isabel Piedmont Smith. Piedmont Smith suggested that Monroe County allocate funds for a new staff member. Executive Director Tom McGlasson explained the additional funds were left over from an old truck driver position.
So that position is still on the books, and that position is budgeted for, but we do not foresee a need to fill it at this time or moving forward. It's a truck driving position. Obviously those funds don't have to go to a truck driver. We can allocate them to a different position or a new position. Unless we suddenly had an explosion of green business customers join, there's probably not going to be a need to fill that position. So the wages that are appropriated to that position could be utilized for an intern.
Committee member Andrew Manley commended the board for setting their minimum wage at $15. Committee members voted 7-0 to draft a letter of approval of the budget. The next Citizens Advisory Committee meeting will be August 19th. And that is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.